Geronimo by Shepherd. Now, I know you've never heard this before, so I will say this again. You are listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow. Today is... It's Sunday. I actually forgot then. I wasn't even planning on telling you what day it was. I just thought I would, and then I forgot it anyway. I've got some interesting stories. There's a lot of interesting stories brewing around in the news recently, and I thought I'd share a few of them with you today. But I mean, I'm going to throw on a few more tunes shortly, but first off, something I read about last night, which I thought was actually quite interesting. There is a bookshop in Venice that's been asked a lot of questions about their layout a while back, and I just love this story. There's a bookshop in Venice that, instead of having the regular shelving that you see in just about every shop ever, their books are stacked and stored in bathtubs and boats. Now, this bookshop is called Acqua Alta, which means high water. And Acqua Alta is also used to describe Venice's frequent flooding. The bookshop is in a prime hotspot for floods, and the high waters once caused over 200,000 euros of damage to the books. So, to protect the books and their livelihood from getting destroyed, they're displayed in bathtubs, boats, and just about anything else that floats, so that as the water rises, the books are safe and sound and home and dry. I just thought that was an amazing story. It's very, very creative. I absolutely love it. I'm going to throw on a few more tunes, but stick around because I have a lot more interesting stories coming up. Rock on. Mamas, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys by Ed Bruce. Before that, we were listening to Hey Good Looking by Hank Williams Jr. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow, and just in case you haven't noticed, I am definitely in the mood for a bit of country music today, so I'm going to be playing a few more country tracks for the next half hour or so before swinging back to sort of more mainstreamy kind of stuff, I guess. Well, for me anyway. Now, over the last couple of weeks, I have had some amazing guests on the show. Last week, we had B, who's studying for a PhD in biology, and we had another guest appearance with the wonderful Olivia Woodrow, who was in there with me and B, and that was just, I had so much fun last week. That was a great time. But the week before that, we also had Jade Thornton, who is a local, just a songwriter, singer, musician, and general all-round creative genius, and Jade has absolutely blown my mind. She appeared at the Pack Horse Open Mic Night the following Saturday, which was not yesterday, it was last Saturday, and oh my god, she just the audience, everybody who was there were gathering round to listen to her play. Everybody was joining in. She just created so much hype and so much energy and so much just awesomeness. It was absolutely amazing, and I'm definitely hoping that Jade will be making an appearance again for the next open mic night at the Pack Horse, and I'm definitely hoping that she'll come onto the show again. She may or may not have a few more interviews lined up in the near future for Insanity on other shows, so watch this space. I will keep you updated. Now, a few days ago, somebody asked me a question that really got me thinking. Somebody asked me why, in old-fashioned and black and white photos, why does nobody ever seem to smile? And I at the time, I did not have an answer for this. But I started doing a little bit of research. It got me curious. I really, really wanted to know if there was a reason for that. And I come back with a few potential explanations, one of which was the exposure time, because old-fashioned cameras, a lot of it was kind of pinhole photography and similar things like that. You had to hold still for the exposure to turn out right for sometimes quite long periods of time, which made smiling very difficult. Have you ever tried smiling without moving for a long time? It hurts. But also, having a photo taken was a serious undertaking, sort of like very similar to having your portrait painted. And photos were seen as immortalizing the subject, which is not something to be taken lightly with a huge grin on your face, I suppose. And in 17th century Europe, smiling for a portrait was stigmatized as showing that someone was either poor, drink, or just generally stupid. And their attitude carried over from portraits being painted into the culture of photographs. The Mark Twain, an American writer, humorist, publisher, and lecturer of the 18th century, was quoted as once saying, "A photograph is a most important document, and there is nothing more damning to go down to posterity than a silly yet foolish smile, excuse me, caught and fixed forever." And that's my throat disappearing already. I haven't even got started with 15 minutes into the show, and my throat is already saying, I want to go back to bed. Oh, good times. I'm going to throw on a few more tunes, and I'm going to see if I can get my throat working again. Stick around to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. All My Exes Live in Texas by Whitey Schaefer. Before that, we had Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man by Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow, and if you have any song requests, don't forget you can tweet into the studio at Insanity Radio. It doesn't have to be something country. It's going to be lined up a bit later in the show for when the country stuff is all run out, because I don't know much country stuff. I don't know much of anything, but what I do know is that 3 patients have been fitted with a potentially groundbreaking device they call a brain pacemaker, which fires electric pulses into surrounding cells in an attempt to slow the progress of Alzheimer's disease. Doctors report that it's reduced the speed at which the brain function declined. In 2 patients, the effects were described as significant. The study shows that the technique has no major side effects, but many more patients would need to be treated to prove that it works. And the study was held for 18 months so that it had a prolonged effect on the patients. The deep brain stimulation has already been proved as highly effective in more than 130,000 patients with Parkinson's disease, so the hopes are high. From what I understand, the frontal lobes of the brain are responsible for our abilities to solve problems, organise and plan, and use good judgments. And implanting the electrodes into the frontal lobes allows you to stimulate them, which reduces the speed of decline. And I'm going to share something else before it's way too short to be going over some music already. So I'm going to start talking about the NHS, because things are kicking off with the NHS again. I want to say as usual. Now, many of you know about the protests with around 60,000 people walking the streets of London campaigning to save the NHS, and I think it's something to do with stopping it from being privatised and selling parts. And meanwhile, in another corner though, up to 60,000 cancer test results might have to be reviewed after women were found to be wrongly given the all clear. So far, checks on 900 samples have found that 17 women were incorrectly told their results were negative, which means that there is potential that over 1,000 more women could have been given the wrong results, according to those statistics. And screening services have begun checking 2,500 samples taken at a laboratory in Basildon in Essex between April 2016 and September 2017, sending letters to patients when mistakes were uncovered. But health officials say that further investigations may be required to see if the blunders have affected around 60,000 women who have had smears at hospitals in Essex during that period of time. The error happened in a lab in Basildon in Essex called Pathology First, which is run by the Southend University Hospital and Basildon and Thurrock University Hospitals, and the laboratory serves approximately 750,000 patients and more than 100 GP practices. NHS England said it was made aware of the problems last September, but GPs in the area were only informed of the issue on Thursday last week. The letters sent out to patients have told women with cancer to contact their hospital for further investigations, while those with borderline and inadequate tests have been told to take more smear tests. The issue seems to have been blamed on a period of time when the laboratory was subjected to a merger with staff changes, training method and process changes. So that's kind of... That's pretty bad. I think when you're analysing, when you're working with people's lives, people's well-being, you just cannot afford, even if there is a merger, even if there's a changeover, even if there's anything like that, you cannot afford to be making blunders this big, potentially affecting thousands of people. It's just, and now I'm speechless. I'm going to throw on some more music. Stick around to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbit. Before that, we had Amos Moses by Jerry Reed. You're listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow, and I don't know why, but I'm standing so close to the microphone today that everything's bouncing off my nose right now. I need to learn to lay back, chill, cool. We've got this. Today is the 4th of February, the 35th day of the year, meaning there are 330 days left until the end of the year and only 324 days left until Christmas. Now, on this day in 1784, there was the first unmanned balloon flight in Ireland. In 1849, the University of Wisconsin began in one room with 20 students. In 1866, Mary Baker Eddy cures her injuries by opening a Bible. In 1933, on this day, the German President Paul von Hindenburg limited freedom of the press. In 1942, on this day, Clinton Pierce became the first US general wounded in an action in World War II. In 1948, Sri Lanka declared independence from the UK. In 1974, a chimpanzee named Nim Chimpsky signed his first word at 2.5 months of age. In 1998, Bill Gates got a pie thrown in his face in Brussels, in Belgium. And in 2004, on this day, Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook from his Harvard dormitory room. Now, very briefly, because I feel a need to cover this. Mary Baker Eddy was the founder of Christian Science, a religious movement that emerged in New England in the late 19th century. Eddy experienced healing on February the 4th in 1866 after she slipped and fell on some ice while walking in Swampscott, Massachusetts on February the 1st, which caused a spinal injury. She is quoted as saying, "On the third day thereafter, I called for my Bible and opened it at Matthew 9:2, and behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. And as I read, the healing truth dawned upon my sense, and the result was that I arose, dressed myself, and ever after was in better health than I had ever before enjoyed. That short experience included a glimpse of the great fact that I have since tried to make plain to others, namely, life in and of spirit, the life being the sole reality of existence." And that was a mouthful. Now also, yes, Facebook. Facebook was launched on this day in 2004, making today Facebook's 14th birthday. According to Statista, Facebook currently has more than 2.2 billion active users. Now, active users is considered those that sign into Facebook at least once throughout a 30-day period. And to think, all of this started in Mark Zuckerberg's dorm room. Now, on a slightly different topic, Formula One. Formula One has had a tradition for decades using grid girls at the F1 races, but recently the F1's commercial boss, Sean Bratches, has announced that they're planning on ending the practice in 2018, something that the World Endurance Championship did at the start of 2015. He was quoted as saying, "While the practice of employing grid girls has been a staple of Formula One Grand Prix for decades, we feel this custom does not resonate with our brand values and is clearly at odds with modern-day societal norms. We don't believe the practice is appropriate or relevant to Formula One and its fans, old and new, across the world." Things is certainly changing pretty quick, aren't they? Things is certainly changing pretty quick. I'm going to throw on a few more tunes. Stick around. I'm going to play 2 more country songs before bringing you back to not White Shadow's idea of normality, so stick around to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. Girl in a Country song by Marion Tay. Before that, we had Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver. And I still keep nearly calling him Joan Denver just because Dale Boy Trotter did. And one of the episodes of Only Fools and Horses, Dale Boy called him Joan Denver. And ever since then, that name has just stuck in my head. Anyway, you are listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM. I am White Shadow. And I have... Now, this story, I love this story. I certainly have my opinions on this, but I am going to try to keep my opinions to myself. A man who believes the Earth is flat is planning on launching himself into orbit, though he might not use the word orbit to describe it. The flat earther Mike Hughes, who has previously attempted to launch across the Mojave Desert, has his sights set on the sky after people on private land said he could launch his steam-powered rocket from their plot. The previous attempt to launch himself across the desert was shut down by the federal government, which said he had no permission to conduct his mission on public property. Even so, his promotion of the rocket launch, which is just phase 1 in his quest to get enough cash to be able to afford the balloon and suit necessary to get him to near space, has brought him a lot of attention. His revised first stage in that plan is a little different than a launch across the desert. This time he's planning on shooting himself straight up for a third of the mile, and he's hoping he can win back the faith of the public, who have pretty much turned to mocking him for his lack of faith in the generally accepted shape of the planet. He's quoted as saying, "The flat earth stuff, it makes people crazy. No matter what I do, people are going to minimize it." Now, the launch will be broadcast live on the website Noos TV, and Mike Hughes is charging $5 per viewer. No spectators will be allowed to join the crew at the launch site, and Mr. Hughes has warned that any drones seen on the private property, which is located along Route 66 in Amboy, California, will be shot down. And... well, I guess my views on this, I'm just glad I'm not a drone, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, there is still quite a strong presence of people that believe the Earth is flat, and the majority of us, for various reasons, still believe the world is round. And, I mean, I know from lessons which way I'm inclined to go, but I'll let you decide. I'll let you decide. Everybody is definitely entitled to their own points of view. I'm going to throw on another song. I will be back with you shortly. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Have fun. Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. Before that, we had Umbrella by the Baseballs. You have been listening to Insanity Radio 103.2 FM with me, White Shadow, and over the next few weeks, I have definitely got some more guests lined up, so stick around. Don't forget, my show is every Sunday at 1 o'clock, and today, we've had some interesting topics today, from people not smiling in old photographs to bookstops that's all, folks. Bookshops that store their books in boats and things. And wow, what a way to end the show. What a way to end the show. We have had conversations about the man who believes the Earth is flat, among many, many other people, who is planning a launch into space. At least 3/4 of a mile upwards, anyway. Yeah, I think at this rate I might just go and join the crew that have the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, or Pastafarianism as it's known. I think it's just stick around and see what crazy things are going to be happening over the next few weeks, because 2018 is going to be a smash. It's already been amazing. Oh, we've got a fun year ahead of us, believe me. But for now, stick around because we've got the SRA Charts show coming up right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, let's get ready to rumble.
Let's get ready to rumble.